Are you ready to start a career in life science or healthcare consulting? If you are, you're in the right place. But before you can get a job in healthcare or life science consulting, you have to pass something called a case interview. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to be able to pass the healthcare consulting interviews, land your consulting offer, and make an impact on so many lives. All right, let's get started. In order for us to know how to solve a healthcare consulting case, we need to actually understand what exactly is healthcare consulting and how does it differ from regular consulting. First off, healthcare consulting provides business advice to healthcare organizations. So this can include life sciences, biotech, and pharma. And even within the healthcare industries, there are subsectors within it. For example, as a healthcare consultant, you might work with healthcare providers, healthcare payers, and even medical device companies. In case any of these terms are new to you, I'm going to go ahead and define them so you can actually go into your interviews already ahead of others who don't know these terms. So regardless if you have a medical background, a life science background, a research background, PhD, you're gonna go in already knowing these information so that you can impress your interviewers. So let's go through the definitions. Pharmaceuticals and biotech firms produce medical drugs, vaccines, and other products that help people recover from illness and injury. Healthcare providers include many professions who administer healthcare services, including doctors, dentists, physical therapists, and nurses. It can include settings within which the care is also provided, like hospitals, clinics, and long-term care facilities. Healthcare payers are insurance companies and government entities that pay for the healthcare services and care. They focus on making sure that patients are eligible, getting patients enrolled, patients can file claims, and that patients are reimbursed. Medical device companies create a range of products, from surgical tools that fit in the palm of your hands to imaging equipment that take up whole rooms. So these are just some basic terms that you need to know heading into your healthcare interviews. There are a couple other ones as well that you'll explore as you do more cases, and I'll link to some of those resources below. But I want to make sure you have these foundations before we head into our case. And if you're new to case interviews, I'll also link below about how case interviews works, as well as how you would solve them. But as a quick summary though, a case interview involves 4 parts. It includes the opening, where you're given the prompt and the problem you're going to be solving, and the interviewer will invite you to ask questions to clarify your understanding of the client's objective. The second is the structure, where you're given time to lay out an approach, a structure for how you would solve the problem. The third part is the analysis, where you're actually going to get the data, the information that you need in order to solve the case. And finally, you have the conclusion, where you summarize what you did and recommend how the client should move forward. That is, what's the answer to the case that you were given. But for this video, we're gonna go straight into the case itself so we can solve it together. And what I'll do is throughout the different sections, I'm actually gonna ask you to pause the video and do it yourself. What I have found has been the most helpful, both for people who are watching this video and other videos. Get some paper, get a pen. In fact, if you need to pause this video to go get those things, go ahead and pause them and come back, because I'll be right here. All right, let's get started. We'll start with the opening here. Our client is a large healthcare insurance company called HealthyCo, and they currently serve 5 million members across the United States. And they're considering launching a new disease management program for one disease to offer more effective care to their members. The program involves hiring and training a team of specialized health coaches to manage members with a specific condition, such as heart disease. Each health coach will handle a portfolio of members, providing the necessary support to help them manage their disease, such as reminders to take their drugs or diet suggestions. Studies suggest that healthcare spending can be reduced by 5% by staying in touch with members every month. HealthyCo has asked us to recommend if they should go ahead with this program and to outline the necessary steps to make it a success. So the first thing you want to do here is restate and recap what you just heard from the interviewer to make sure that you have all the right information, you're not missing anything, and you're solving for the right problem. So pause the video and pretend that you're a candidate and see how you would actually recap this problem. And I'll go back and I'll give you an example of how I recap it. Just to make sure I have all the right information. Our client today is HealthyCo, and they're considering launching a preventative program. My understanding is that HealthyCo then is a healthcare payer. That is, they're responsible for underwriting insurance policies, assessing risk, assigning premiums, and managing the financial aspects of healthcare coverage. And they brought us in today to analyze if they should go ahead and roll out a disease management program. So as a insurance provider, this preventative program will actually help their financial goals by lowering their cost while improving patient health. They also want to plan for how they can ensure it's successful. All right, so you can see here that I just recapped the problem, made sure I understood everything. But before I dive in, I want to understand, what are the responsibilities and limitations of the health coaches in the program? Second, how many members can each health coach take on monthly? And what's the associated cost? And third, I want to know, are there any limitations or constraints on resources such as funding? At this point, I've asked the questions, and any of you might reply back, for example, great questions. Let me provide some additional context. The health coaches will conduct all activities remotely via phone and email. The health coaches will typically be registered nurses who prefer to work from home. Each coach can only contact, that means take on, 8 members per day, and they'll work 25 days per month. The annual cost to us for each coach will be their salary of $60,000 and additional 15% for training, benefits such as laptops and other expenses. And you can assume that there are no other program costs. With all that information, I might have enough already in the opening to proceed to the phase 2, which is the structuring. So I might say, great, I have all the information I need. Could I take a moment to structure an approach for our client? And then from here, I might take a 60 to 90 second pause to build out a structure. So I actually want you to take the same time to pause this video and actually do the structure yourself and come back in 60 to 90 seconds, and then let's do this together. To know if I would recommend this program for our client, I would need to know if the cost savings from not having to pay out so much insurance outweighs the cost of the program. In order to do that, we need to understand the economics of a disease management program and what potential risk could be considered. I hypothesize that the best focus for this disease management program would be a specific demographic or type of disease that would yield, first, substantial improvements in the patient health, and second, high healthcare cost savings. I consider common diseases, particularly those that affect older people, for example. To validate this hypothesis, I'd like to walk through how to approach our client's problem. Here are the main areas of questions I would like to learn from. First, who would be the right member for this program? In order to know this, I would have to understand what are the different types of member segments and disease types, and what are the future projections of each diseases. Is there a demonstrated demand for this program within a certain segment, and what alternative programs or solutions are currently available to these members? Second, I'd like to know what are the cost savings from the program. How I calculate this is I would like to know for each of the diseases and each of the age groups, how many members would be impacted, that is, their health improved, and how much money do we save per member if we were to implement the program. If I multiply those numbers together, I would get the cost savings. The third category I'd like to know is how much is this program going to cost? And I want to break this into 2 parts. First off is the investment cost, which is how much is it going to take to start this program? And second is how much would it cost to run this program? For example, you already gave me information about how much it would cost for the healthcare coaches as well. I want to aggregate all that data together to figure out how much it would cost to run this program. And then from there, I can then calculate if the program cost is less than the cost savings from the program that we calculated from earlier. After we calculated out that the cost savings are actually going to outweigh the program cost, what I'd like to know is, can we actually implement the program by knowing, do we have the internal resources to make the program happen? I want to know what resources would be required to implement the program. First, I'd like to know what resources would be required to implement the program. And second, what resources do we already have, and how do we gain those resources that we're lacking, such as, for example, hiring additional health coaches. And finally, I'd like to look at what are the risk considerations. For example, I'd like to know what potential regulatory and liability risks exist, and how do we address those ahead of time? Second, are there other stakeholders who would be negatively impacted by the program? And finally, what are the potential responses that our competitors could have, and how would that affect our long-term success? So that's just an example of what a structure could be that you could use to solve the case. There's no one right answer, but if you are looking to improve your structuring skills, I'll include some video links below to help you improve your structuring. And by the way, if you're interested in becoming a management consultant, I have a surprise for you. I want to give you free access to a limited time workshop that my team and I are hosting. During this workshop, we reveal exactly what consulting firms like McKinsey, Bain, and BCG are looking for when they're thinking about who to interview and who to give offers to. And for a limited time, I want to give you access for free. To find out more details about how you can get free access, check out the link below. But let's assume that we take the structure, or the structure that you have currently, and we go on to stage 3 now, which is the analysis. During the analysis, they're going to proactively give you some exhibits, some data, and some questions to help you think about. Either way, what the interviewer is going to be testing is, how can you take the information, synthesize it, and then figure out what does it mean for the client. So let's say, for example, the interviewer is proactive and decides that they want to lead the case. The interviewer might say something like, one of your key questions in your structure was about understanding what group of members the client serves. HealthyCo categorizes its members into 3 main groups. Group members, which are employer-sponsored plans, individual members age 65 and under, and individual members over the age of 65. Our client knows that preventative programs work best for individuals over 65, so we want to focus our analysis on that group. So in fact, we have some data here. Can you tell me what this data says? And in this instance, you're going to get a graph, and you're going to be asked to interpret it. So pause this video right here, look at the graph, and write down what you think the insights here and how they impact the client. And then when you come back, I'll be here. All right, I'm gonna assume back that you're ready now. So let's do this together. So before going into your response, what I recommend here is take a moment, ask for some time, look at the numbers, and consider the analysis or insights that you can draw here. So for example, you might say something like, thank you for sharing this data. Could I take a moment to digest what it's saying? And the interviewer might say, great, have a moment. So what I noticed about this graph is that within the 3 groups of segments, there's a couple of things that stand out. First off is that 65% of HealthyCo's members are group members. These members are typically healthier than the other members because they're younger working professionals. I do not believe this is our best group to target for the disease management program because their healthcare costs are already quite low. I believe the ideal focus for the preventative program would be the over 65 age segment, as you mentioned earlier. This is because these older members are generally the sickest, which means that they're more likely to drive higher costs and would be the perfect candidates for this program. Additionally, I think we should focus on diabetics, assuming that they're all type 2, which would be a strategic choice given that the disease, according to this graph, affects 40% of the over 65 age segment. To confirm this thinking, I'd like to calculate how many members HealthyCo has who are over 65 and also diabetic. Next, I would like to understand the cost of providing this program. So at this point, the interviewer might like what you're saying and say something like, great, how would you calculate that? So the candidate might say, you know, HealthyCo currently has 5 million members, and from this exhibit, 20% of those members are in the over 65 age group, and 40% of the members of that group have diabetes. Therefore, I would multiply those two numbers to arrive at the number of diabetic members over the age of 65. So that would be 5 million members times 20% of the members times 40%, which gets 400,000. So there are 400,000 HealthyCo members that we can target for this disease management program. Next, I would like to understand the program costs and savings to determine whether this program can pay for itself. Do we have any information on this? The interviewer then might say, our client told us that their client average monthly cost for anyone over 65 is $300 per member. But for people with diabetes, it's 4 times as much. All right, so imagine that the interviewer just asked you that question. How would you calculate that? Pause this video, and then I'll come back and do the math with you. So before I calculate everything out, I want to list out what we already know. First, we know that the annual cost per healthcare coach includes a salary of $60,000 and an additional 15% for training, benefits like laptops and other expenses. We also know that each coach can only handle 8 members per day and that they work 25 days per month. We also know that the disease management program can reduce the cost by 5%. We know that 400,000 HealthyCo members are over 65 and have diabetes. And for people over 65 with diabetes, the monthly cost to have them is 300 times 4 or $1,200. So with that, I can calculate a few of the following. First, I can calculate the cost per coach. So we know that $60,000 is their base salary, and that we know that we have to multiply that by 1.15%, which is at 15%. And that gets us to $69,000 per coach. Then we have to figure out how many members a coach can handle. So we know that there are 25 working days in a month, so that means that they can handle 200 members per month. So then we need to figure out how many coaches do we need to serve our population of 400,000 diabetic members over 65. So I'm gonna take 400,000 and divide by 200 per coach, and that means that we need 2,000 coaches. So then we can calculate the total cost for all the coaches. So we know that one coach is $69,000 and we need 2,000 coaches. Multiplying both of those, we get $138 million for the cost of all the coaches. So now that we know it's $135 million, we need to know if the potential health savings is worth it every single month. So we know that the cost per diabetic over 65 already is calculated at $1,200, and the cost savings is 5%. So multiplying those together, we get $60 per diabetic member who are over $65 per month. So then I need to figure out what this is per year. So then I will take the $60 and multiply it by the 400,000 members, and then multiply it by the 12 months per year. And that gets us $288 million. However, to know the total savings, we need to take the 288 million and subtract it from the cost of the coaches, which is 138 million. Then that gets us $150 million in annual savings. Therefore, this program could actually save HealthyCo $150 million per year in health spending costs on diabetic members over 65 while improving their health. So if the program goes well, we could likely roll this out to other disease areas with similar results. So at this point, you've solved the math, and it looks like this is going to help out our client because it's going to help them save $150 million per year and also improve the health of their members. So a win-win for everyone. All right, so you just found $150 million of savings for our client. That's pretty impressive. And let's say that the interviewer is already impressed with this. We arrive at the answer, and the interviewer says, great, that sounds fantastic. Let's say that the CEO of the company is coming in. What would you tell her? This signals to you that we've entered the 4th phase of the case, which is the conclusion. Here is where you're going to give a recommendation for how the case went and what the client should do. So pause the video, take some time, and then come back and we'll go through the recommendation together. All right, when it comes to the recommendation, you want to have a structure. The approach I like to have is what I call the 5 R's approach, which is 1, to recap the problem. 2nd, you want to go straight into the recommendation. That's because if a CEO has to leave for another meeting, you want to make sure that they left with the most important information. 3rd, you want to list the reasons, which is why do you recommend this? 4th, the risk. What could go wrong? And finally, you want to retain the client by figuring out what are the next steps that you and your team can work that the client would think, wow, that's a really good investment of our time to purchase more consulting time. That's the overview of the 5 R's process. And if you want to learn more about the 5 R's process, I'll link that below. At this time, if you want to revise your recommendation based on the 5 R's, go ahead and pause the video and do that. If not, I'll share with you how I would approach this. HealthyCo wants to know if they should launch the coaching program for disease management. I recommend this for 3 reasons. First, HealthyCo can potentially save $150 million by launching this program. Second, it would positively impact the health of 400,000 members. And third, we have a chance to scale this program, if successful, to other age groups and to other disease groups as well. The risk that I see here is that we need 2,000 coaches for this program, and we haven't figured out, is it possible to hire, train, and manage 2,000 coaches? Given more time, I would like to work with the client to make sure that we have a plan for rolling out our program and hiring those 2,000 coaches if we want to do a full-scale rollout. All right, so that's the case. How did you do? Regardless of how you did during this case, I hope you were able to get a practice in ahead of your actual interviews. Before we end the video, I want to leave you with 3 additional tips for helping you pass the healthcare case interviews. The first one is to understand the unique dynamics of the healthcare consulting space. You can do this in many ways. For example, you can read a trade journal, you can go on Wikipedia, or you can use the My Consulting Offer Industry Guide that will walk you through the common terms for the healthcare industry. So you don't need a 2-year master's or a 4-year PhD in order to be an expert in healthcare. Second, you want to demonstrate your interest in the healthcare space within your case interviews. For example, if you're reading through an industry guide or a healthcare article and you're able to tie that back into the case, demonstrate that you actually do research on healthcare outside, like this is actually an interest for you. And the third tip is during the fit interviews, show why you're interested in healthcare consulting versus just general consulting. If you have a story, a reason, a passion for why you're applying to this firm, especially a healthcare consulting firm, this is the opportunity in the fit interviews to demonstrate your interest. If you're serious about becoming a management consultant, I'd love to help you. My team and I are former McKinsey, Bain, and BCG recruiters and interviewers who help applicants land interviews, prepare for their assessments, and pass the interviews so that they can land their offers at firms like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and so many other amazing consulting firms. And for a limited time, you can access this training all for free. In it, we share with you the step-by-step proven process that has helped over 1,000 people land their consulting offers at some of the biggest firms in the world. And all you have to do to access this training is to check out the link below. And the proven method that you're going to learn in this workshop, we've used to help 90% of the people we work with land at least 1 consulting offer. In fact, many land multiple offers. And we're going to give it to you away for free. All you have to do to gain access to this is to check out the link below. Joining this workshop could put you 1 step closer to landing your dream consulting